Hi there, welcome to Sports Center from our nation's capital. I'm Scott Van Pelt. Golden State is a win away from winning the NBA Finals. They have just wrapped up a 10-point win in San Francisco. Tim Legler's in studio to break things down. Stephen A. Smith will join us from San Francisco. We'll get reaction from both sides. We'll visit with one of the stars of the night, that player to be determined, for highlights of how Game 5, always so important in a series knotted up at 2 games apiece, played out. Here's how things go early in the first. Warriors up by a couple. Draymond, look out. Expensive seats. You want to see the players up close. You don't necessarily want them in your lap. And offensive blocker charge. Everybody's okay? Everybody's okay. It's still 10-4. Draymond. Oh, looky here. Down the lane. Given the energy and playing with that force, right? Something he always talks about. Steph Curry, float game. That was, but not the three-pointers. We'll get to that. The Warriors are 20-0 in the playoffs under Steve Kerr when they lead by 10 or more in the first quarter. Andrew Wiggins. I know Tim Legler can't wait to talk about just how significant his contribution was tonight. Warriors up 11. Boston missed its first. Curry, scoop off the window. That's good. Challenged by Horford there. It's an 8-point game in the third. And as cold as Boston had been, they're suddenly as hot from 3. And Tatum burying 3 after 3. It's a tie game. Al Horford gives the Celtics the lead. They look like they were hopelessly lost in the first. Steph from 3, no. Woo, 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 outlet. The bucket from Grant Williams, the and one. It's suddenly a 5-point lead, but now it's 4. Here comes Clay. That release is so clean, so quick, so pure. Leads 4. Jordan Poole hits the 3, and the Warriors are down 1. In transition, Draymond, what a pass. Beautiful look. That finds GP the second, and then Poole to beat the buzzer, and he barely beat it. With .1 on the clock, it's just barely out of his fingertips, all 3 of these, and that gives the Warriors back the lead as they head into the fourth. In the fourth quarter, Warriors have a 5-point lead. This is a big moment here as Clay, does he get away with a shove on Smart? I know that's something that Tim will talk about. Just how do you just discern between a flop and an actual foul? The 3's good there. And then it's Wiggins again in attack mode. And all of a sudden that leads back to double digits. There's Curry with a floater. 133rd postseason game of his career, first that Steph did not have a single 3. Couldn't buy one. That's after he had 43 in Boston in Game 4. Wiggins again. Working on Big Rob. That's a tough dude to try to take. And then Wiggins, again down the lane with emphasis. And he's giving a look at any Celtic that's in his vicinity. White goes for the swipe. Wiggins doesn't quite get the emphatic punch, hit the rim just a little bit. That's fine. He'll take it. And Clay will take that triple as well. A little late on the board, it's fine. It's a 10-point win in Game 5. And after being outscored by 43 points in the fourth quarter across the first 3 games of the series, the Warriors controlled the final dozen minutes in both Game 4 and Game 5. They've now held Boston to 20 or fewer, 2 straight fourth quarters, holding the Celtics to 4 of 15 from the floor. Andrew Wiggins with Lisa Salters after a tremendous performance. All right, some technical difficulties there. We will sort out the sound from the Bay, and in the meantime, we'll get the thoughts of Tim Legler, and that's the man. We'll hear what he had to say. What do you have to say about the significance of his contribution tonight? Do they win without him?
If he was even this less good in this series, they're not in a position to win the series. That's how special Andrew Wiggins has been. I have so much appreciation for what this guy's become as a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
I said it to you like late third, early fourth. I don't know where to be without him. And then he had a huge flourish in the fourth.
I walk in and we have chit-chat, right? Where are we going to go here? I walk in, and as you and I are talking, you just like, let me write this down. What are you going to show us from what you and I are talking about as he put his exclamation mark on this?
And he's the only athlete they have right now that can do this, that's in the rotation, that can make some of these plays. And I just think they're so important. Here you go, 1-point game, early fourth quarter. And, you know, we could talk about their defense a lot tonight, too, as well, Scott. And this is kind of symptomatic of what you saw a lot of in the second half. 4 bodies around Jason Tatum on a finish. So the activity was great. But then it's this. They don't have anybody else in their team that can do it. And it's special. He comes up the floor, and you can see right here, Derek White, his shoulders are in the right place because Wiggins is coming up that side of the floor. But this little look he gives over here, he makes White think that he's going to go and cross over. White actually spins out this way, and watch how quickly when he does that, Andrew Wiggins is at the rim. He's the only athlete in the open floor that can make this play. Maybe Kuminga, but he's not in the rotation right now. Gets to the rim, very important play, puts him up 3. Here's another one here. Steph Curry, as he's prone to do, going to draw 2 guys. Reason I want you to see this, when Wiggins makes this dive right here to the basketball, take a look at where he jumps from. He's going to leave the ground in this area right here. And you got 2 backline defenders that are just waiting to make a play at the rim, but you can't do it because of where he catches it, splits, takes off, goes to the left. Again, a critical time in the game. One more time. Again, Steph doing most of the work, draws the contact. Wiggins catches it, he looks up. He's got a wall on the baseline.
Yeah, he does.
Again, he takes a look. This is where the gap is, and I want you to watch where he ends up shooting his basketball from. He puts it down, starts to go. He's going to jump right here in the middle of the lane. By the time he lands, he is all the way outside the lane here. Again, just being a freak athlete with great touch on the run, tough floater. He's been great on the glass tonight. He was that electric scorer that they needed to be on a night that Steph Curry really struggled to get anything going. Wiggins really bailed them out in this one, and their defense was manic from the start. Completely different defensive energy than we've seen to this point in the series.
And I think it was, as I pointed out, Boston missed the first dozen threes it took. Then they hit, 8 in a row as they take a 5-point lead. And we've seen the ebbs and flows of this series. We saw it in Game 1 where Boston made, 10 in a row in the fourth to grab Game 1 and steal home court for the moment. But Golden State's ability to absorb those punches, kind of gather, and then ride Wiggins really on a night. You tell Coach Udoka in Boston, Steph's going to go 0 from 3 for the first time in his career. You think you're stealing this game. You have to.
Particularly when you've had no answer for him to this point. And you say, hey, we're going to hold him to this kind of night. There's no way we lose that game. Particularly if Klay doesn't go off.
Sure.
You say, well, maybe that's the other thing that could happen. This is scenario C. You keep those guys under wraps for the most part, and Wiggins completely guts you with his ability to play one-on-one basketball and just be athletic in the paint.
I just want to try to explore more just the idea of being a number 1 pick, right? Being a guy that people question what you're not, right? He's not, whatever. Well, what he is was on complete display, and you did a great job of illustrating it. I think it speaks to the fact that players are allowed to get better. They're allowed to mature in every different way. And if we're patient, sometimes people can become the player in full, and it feels like that's what we're seeing from Wiggins.
This was a guy that put up huge numbers in Minnesota, and boy, did it benefit him tonight. Because tonight he became that Andrew Wiggins when he needed to be. I mean, this is a guy that a lot of nights could be your 4th best offensive player, and he was an all-star this year. We've talked more about his defense and rebounding, I think, than anything this year. Tonight, he reverted back to, hey, you guys forgot. I averaged almost 25 a game in Minnesota one year.
Right.
So if I need to do this, I can be it. But I think the style of play and Draymond Green in particular, making him accountable to be better defensively, more alert, on your toes, be aware. You've got to make rotations when we need you to make them. He's not afraid to bark at him, and I've been seeing it really since the day he got there, and it's made him a better player. He's now looked at as a winner, Scott.
And see, I wasn't going to but you, because sure, he put up big numbers in Minnesota, but with respect, so what?
They were hollow.
They're not part of anything that really added up to something. So how do you become less than that on something more than that, right?
Yeah.
On a team that's more than that. I appreciate a player like Wiggins, who is given the opportunity to just take a step back, to take a step forward, and it feels like we're seeing that in this finals, because they don't win this game without him, as you said.
When he went to Golden State, I think everybody was kind of wondering what that was going to look like. Like, what's the fit? He had a lot of people questioning his concentration level more than anything. He's a very laid-back guy, and sometimes those guys get labeled something.
Wasn't it the 1-2 more than the concentration?
That's what I'm saying. Guys like that get labeled lazy sometimes because they're super calm, their demeanor never changes, and he would turn his head and watch the ball get beat on a back cut. I saw some of those nights, and I'm going, he's just not locked in. But he goes there, and they got the most out of him. But you can't do it unless a guy is willing to take that extra step, and he clearly has, because he's more physical. The rebounds he gets are tough ones. They play small lineups. He's the only guy out there grabbing some of those balls, capable of doing it against this team that is so athletic, so much more athletic than they are. And I said to you earlier tonight, I said, I don't know where they would be without him right now. He's clearly been their second best player offensively in this series, and he's been their best rebounder. At times, he's been their best defender, getting Tatum most of the series. The guy's just had a phenomenal run here, and he's going to be viewed completely differently than he was early in his career in Minnesota.
Well, and that's what I'm speaking to the idea of just of a bit of patience. If you could be patient for a moment, we get back to you for some more chatter. We got until 1 a.m. Eastern time. I want to welcome in Stephen A. Smith now. I'll spin this one. Okay. Stephen A. Smith, good evening. Great to be with you. You just heard Tim and I talk.
We've seen so far, and a lot of it comes down to the Boston offense. Which version of the Celtics do you expect to see tonight?
I expect Boston to bounce back, because when you've watched them in the playoff, anytime they've got punched in the mouth, they've always bounced back with good energy and major moments from their stars and their role players in the very next game. If you think about game 2, it looked like, oh, man, the Boston Celtics are going to be a little bit rattled, and then they come right back off the mat for a big game 3. I expect them to bounce back. I expect Tatum to finally have one of those big-time type of games and look for them to give their best performance tonight.
I expect Boston also to bounce back. Defense travels. I think their defense will travel on the road. And, they've been playing really good basketball, except for, those last 4 or 5 minutes of the last game. That's when they made some crucial mistakes. But up until then, they're up 4 or 5, with 5 minutes to go in Boston and couldn't close it out. So I expect them to come out and play well tonight, Grant.
In particular on the offensive end, especially in late game situation, what needs to change for the Celtics?
Well, first of all, they've had some struggles with turnovers, but I thought in Game 4 they played well. As Isaiah said, it was just closing out the game. 17-3, I think they were outscored by Golden State late in the fourth quarter there in Game 4. They got to make better decisions, and I think shot selection is really going to be huge for Boston, particularly on the road here in Game 5. They're going to be in it. They're going to be in it because, as Isaiah said, their defense, it travels well. It's consistent. They're going to make Golden State, play tough basketball. Steph's going to have to be great. We'll assume he'll continue to be great. But if they can execute on the offensive end, not turn the ball over, and get a good shot attempt every possession, particularly in that last 7 minutes in the fourth quarter, then that gives them a great opportunity to come out of here with a win.
Their offensive rating in the clutch so far in the postseason, that's within 5 minutes at the end of the game, score within 5 points, is the worst of any team that has won a playoff series this spring. They'll have to correct the turnover issue, which has plagued them in the finals and the 2 losses here so far. You see the difference between wins and losses. 3-5 with 15 or more turnovers in this playoffs. 1-6 if they reach the 16 turnover mark so far in the postseason. And Grant, Jason Tatum is averaging a career high for a postseason series in assists, nearly 8 assists. But he's also 3 turnovers away from matching LeBron James' all-time record for turnovers in a postseason. What changes?